Good afternoon. I want to thank Jane, Josh, Whitney, John, Caroline, and everybody at the Hall of Fame for once again making our visits to Cooperstown feel like a homecoming. I also want to congratulate Joe for the Frick Award. Thank you, Joe, for season after season in the Red Sox golden age for informing and entertaining one of the best fan bases in sports. I want to tell you about a character named Gerry Fraley, the winner of the Career Excellence Award, which goes to baseball writers who stand the test of time. Ideally, the winner is a beat person who covers the team wherever it goes and whatever it does. It means getting to the ballpark 5 or so hours before the first pitch, walking out at midnight or later, showing up at airports before dawn. It requires organization, stamina, the ability to use statistics without letting them use you, the knack of reading a baseball clubhouse and maintaining relationships with players who might not always appreciate your commentary, and seeing everything that happens, and some things that don't, over 9 or more innings. We are honoring Gerry Fraley today because he is the epitome of all that. He knew the teams he covered better than they knew themselves. In 1980, I was covering the Phillies for the Philadelphia Bulletin, who did their spring training in Clearwater, Florida. We would read all the papers in the morning. Pretty soon we realized that this kid from the Clearwater Sun knew at least as much about the Phillies as we did and didn't even need a month to do so. That was Gerry, and when I left the Phillies beat in 1981, we hired him. The paper went out of business in January, but Gerry was already in demand. He went from there to Atlanta to Dallas, covering baseball all along, but he covered other pro teams when needed, along with college football and stock car racing. Some of us joked that Fraley could cover 2 teams at once if he had to. Claire Smith said he could cover all 30 major league teams at once, too. Eventually, we realized we weren't joking. Gerry related to players because he had the same approach they did. When he came to the ballpark every day, he came to win. He defined winning by finding out something nobody else knew, by separating rumors from facts, by realizing that something in the 3rd inning could affect something that happened in the 7th inning. He processed everything quickly and always hit the deadline. And then he would get out his day book, his spiral notebook, in which he would keep detailed numbers on every team and every player, day by day, for all 162, plus playoffs. Actually, he didn't like the playoffs all that much, and he had no use for opening day, because that was the day people show up just to be seen. He preferred Game 2 of 162 with the hardcore fans. It was made for him, the beginning of the grind. As a high school senior in Clearwater, he was on independent study because the teachers had run out of things to teach him. He had a perfect score on the math section of the SAT, which allowed him to attend Carnegie Mellon, a place where talented people of all sorts were allowed to thrive, where the actor Holly Hunter was a classmate, and where Gerry discovered a sandwich that had French fries inside. He always had a fondness for Pittsburgh. Baseball once had a rule against fraternization. Players were discouraged from talking to their opponents before games. That rule, of course, is long gone, but Fraley adopted it as his own. He was a relentless opponent, personally and professionally, for any poor soul who was unfortunate enough to cover the same beat for a different newspaper. No wonder he got along with Bob Gibson, who didn't speak to National League teammates at the All-Star game. His friend Rick Gosselin described him in 6 words: no better friend, no worse enemy. And there's little question that Gerry took his attitude over the line at times. Yet T.R. Sullivan, who competed with Gerry for years on that beat, spoke movingly and admiringly of Gerry at his memorial service. He noted that Frales not once mailed it in. Otherwise, Gerry had time for everyone: the umpires, the trainers, the equipment managers, the press box workers, the editors who worked late at night, a future president of the United States, and especially the scouts, knew how generous and inquisitive he was. Gerry held the people in his business to a towering standard, but he saved his highest expectations for himself. He would chide himself if he didn't write the perfect story. He staged a nonstop crusade to be the best he could be. If he had been a talented player, he would be joining this hall on a Sunday, not a Saturday. Frales was not blind to the fact that he was irascible. and he didn't mind adding to that reputation. His colleague Kevin Sherrington recalled one night in the Astrodome when two hands appeared on the scoreboard and started clapping. Immediately, the crowd began clapping too. Gerry rushed to the front of the press box and started yelling at the fans. "That's right, clap, you sheep." The Atlanta Braves and Montreal Expos both trained in West Palm Beach. And the team that won the head-to-head exhibition series also won the Mayor's Cup. Frales told the Braves minor league players that they would all get TVs if they won the deciding game, which they did. When one of them was called up to Atlanta, he mentioned to Frales that he hadn't gotten his TV yet. Frales assured him it was on his way, probably the following year. Rick Mailer was on that Braves pitching staff. The scoreboard in Montreal used to show the image of a chicken every time a pitcher tried a pickoff throw to first. Frales told Mailer that the most number of chickens was 10 for any one batter. So Mailer took it as a challenge. He threw over to first base 12 times to break the record. There was no record, of course. Frales' favorite spectator sport was pro wrestling. Ric Flair was the avatar on his Twitter feed. He felt, half seriously, that Randy Macho Man Savage, who was actually Randy Poffo and played 4 years in the Cardinals minor league system, should get Hall of Fame consideration. After an Arizona Fall League game, he and I went to a sedate Phoenix restaurant populated by people who were there for the early bird special, and he demanded to watch the WWF telecast on the TVs. Yes, a Fall League game. Gerry didn't believe in off-seasons. But his work wasn't the most important thing in his life. In every conversation, Gerry talked proudly of his sons, Sam and Tyson, and he'd be prouder to see the young men they'd become. Twice he put his career on hold with them in mind. They were at his house in Grapevine, Texas one Sunday in mid-May of 2019, when Rick Gosselin, Tracy Ringlesby, Bob Dutton, and I visited Frales. Gerry sat in the Barca Lounger and listened and laughed to all the old stories. He was exhausted by his fight against cancer. I'm sure cancer was exhausted too. It couldn't have picked a better matchup, a tougher matchup. He still went to the ballpark as long as he could, shuffling all the way, carrying his computer and his notebooks, wearing a port for his medication. The Rangers recognized this and moved his parking place nearer to the press door. He still went downstairs to the clubhouse, as always. Tony Beasley was on the coaching staff then, a cancer survivor, and he served as Gerry's spiritual advisor. In late April of 2019, Gerry wrote the lead on a Dallas Stars playoff game on Deadline. His last story was published May 5th, 2019, and was about Rougned Odor's coming out of a slump and whether Delino DeShields would be sent to AAA. He died 5 days after we visited him on May 25th. Frales, we love you. We miss you every day. I hope you've enjoyed this ceremony, and I pray that it did you justice. But if you missed it because you were updating your daybook, we understand. Thank you.